right, so tonight's program, we have MS Conversations Now. It's an MS Patients Voices program. This is something that we started at several months ago. And what it is I get together with different MS patients that are doing things for the MS community in varying roles and various things that they do in life and how that's beneficial for everybody. Again, for those that don't know me, my name is Stuart Schlossman, president and founder of MS Views and News. I too have multiple sclerosis. This program tonight is supported by our organization, MS Views and News. And tonight's guests, we have Damian Washington, who does a lot of things with MS Views and News. In fact, he's running a series of programs where he's interviewing other patient leaders as to what they're doing in life and moving forward to see what they can do to benefit those that are watching the programs. All right, and then our lead guest tonight is AnnMarie Giannino, right? I did say that right. And she is from New York. She's a MS patient and cancer and mental health advocate. All right, she's doing a tremendous amount of work. I want to tell you a little bit about her, right? It's all written out, so I'm going to have to read this. Sorry if I'm looking down, but AnnMarie is doing work as an advocate for mental health and suicide prevention. She's our guest. She's the founder of What Would You Miss? And we're going to be speaking about that, all right? It's a space developed to promote a dialogue between people who struggle with mental illness and those whose lives they touch. AnnMarie has inspired a new kind of conversation about depression and suicide, and the response thus far has been nothing less than astonishing. The central idea is to start a conversation that inspires hope and reminds us about things in life we may be taken for granted. And this is something that AnnMarie promotes all the time. Knowing what others find you worthy opens the door to hope, and it's already saving many, many lives. So, AnnMarie, first off, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm great. Thank you. And I know that you're a multiple sclerosis patient, but tonight's program is not really about multiple sclerosis. It's about what it is that you're doing. What is it that you're doing to help people with depression and suicide? Can you share with us why you got into this?
I'm a two-time suicide survivor. I've been hospitalized twice for suicidal ideations and a suicide plan. And the only way that we can actually save somebody is to talk. And talking's hard. It's hard to talk about difficult things. So we need a way to do that that's not, aggressive and doesn't make anybody uncomfortable, yet opens a door. And I was talking to a friend of mine who lost her son to suicide. And I casually just asked, well, what do you miss about him? And she just said, well, I miss him. And I said, no, tell me really, really what you miss. And she just started telling me things that she missed about him. And this gave her a time to be able to discuss her son without discussing how he died. And it wasn't his grades or his talents. It was, him slamming the door every time that he left for school, or leaving the cereal bowl on the counter, even though she told him to put it in the sink. It was leaving his socks on the bathroom floor. It was those things that he probably found that she found annoying. And as she started talking, she realized that, she wanted to continue to talk about the things she would miss. And then a couple months later, I was struggling myself, having a really dark moment, starting to think some, rabbit hole moments that I was having. And I started thinking about things I would miss about myself. And it wasn't my kids or my job or my house or my cousins or my family. It was singing in the car at the top of my lungs. It was buying 20 pairs of hoop earrings. It was having lip gloss all over the house. It was, singing in Target, and just ridiculous things that make me who I am. And I would miss those things about me if I wasn't here. And it doesn't just do that. It doesn't just give you a chance to realize that you have validation in your life. If someone sends you a message and says, I would miss going to get coffee with you on Tuesdays, you've shown that person that you see them, that their existence is valid, and that you would miss them if they weren't here. Because when you're in that deep, dark depression, you believe that you're better, everyone around you is better off without you. So that's really why I started it. It was more personal than anything else. And quite frankly, it saved my life.
All right, well, thank you for that. Before I get into the next question, I want to let everybody know Damian is going to be asking some questions tonight as well. And if any of you all have any questions relevant to the topic of what we're talking about tonight, please visit the orange button at the top of the screen and type in your questions. And during the program, and even after we get through our questions, I will be asking your questions as well. Okay. So, Damian, do you have anything that you want to add to what AnnMarie just spoke about?
Yeah, no, it's as a patient leader, and someone who has found a way forward with talking about his illness and his condition with other people. And that's mainly because of social media. So it's a catalyst. So how has social media been a catalyst to you in your messaging, your voice? Like, has it driven it in any way?
Oh, 100%. I started out with just people would send me pictures of things that they would miss. And it was, cookies and coffee and walks in the park and rainbows and fireworks and all of that. And then I started a podcast with it. And I interviewed people both with boards that I'm on, the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and teachers and counselors and people who have, suicidal ideations. COVID, of course, stopped that. We still did the interviews a little bit through Zoom. I started speaking in the schools, at libraries, but that was all because of social media. Social media became this great tool that we could use. And then I just started making videos, talking to people directly, looking at them and saying, hey, you, just so that they would know that I was talking to them. And that resonated very, very deeply with people because, they felt as though I was actually speaking to them. And I was really speaking to myself. So, I think when you're authentic, it can come across the right way. Social media has been great for that. It really has.
So what sort of, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, if you have a thought that leads off to what you just said, keep going.
Yeah, no, it's sort of, it's part of one of my questions. It's like, so what drives you to do this? I mean, being a patient is one thing, but being a patient leader is an entirely different thing. So how did you even bridge that gap, so to speak?
Well, I mean, it really started with my breast cancer diagnosis because I started blogging because my family's extremely nosy and they needed to know my every move. So I would blog about it. And then all of a sudden, I had someone in Ireland reading it and someone in Thailand. And I was like, people are actually reading this. I spell things incorrectly. I use exclamation points out my ears. I swear. But people were reading it because I was who I was. And after my cancer diagnosis, like I said, I'm a 2-time suicide survivor. Before I was diagnosed with cancer, I had hospitalized myself. I'm a recovering addict. I have a very long mental health rap sheet, and no one asked me if I needed any help. Not one person said, "Do you want some help?" So it was a natural fold into mental health. And then I was also in the middle of trying to get a diagnosis for my tingling and my numbness and my aches and pains. And first I had TMJ, then I had you need to take a muscle relaxer and just calm down. As you know, in the MS world, it's not always an easy diagnosis until I got a doctor that would listen to me. And then I was diagnosed with MS. So the commonality with cancer, MS, lupus, I don't care what you have, is mental health. You could have absolutely nothing and there's still a common thread to mental health. So I find myself just hanging out there. And also I have to be true to my kids, right? I got 4 kids and they're men. And you guys are on this panel right now talking, but the reality is that men are least likely to talk about their health, especially mental health, than women. And they are at the highest suicide rate. I have 4 boys. I have to be honest about it. So if I can't talk about it, then why am I expecting them to?
So I have a question now. Do you think that a person who contemplates suicide has a mental illness?
Everyone has a mental illness. I firmly believe that 1 in 5 have a mental illness, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 are taking care of that person with a mental illness, which gives them a mental illness. Depression is a diagnosis. It's not an emotion. You can get over being sad. That's an emotion. Just like you get over being happy or angry. You don't get over being depressed. That you have to work towards that. Can you have moments of when you're not depressed? 100%. But that's working on your tools. And getting to that point. I think everyone at some point in their life has thought about killing themselves. And that's normal. And we need to normalize that and have people understand that it is normal to think that. What's scary and puts you at a higher risk is planning it and thinking about it incessantly. That's a little different.
So another question, with regard to depression, do you think that there are different illnesses like MS or cancer, different disease states that cause or can cause more depression than another?
Oh, 100%. Our lives are so radically altered after any diagnosis. How can we not grieve the loss of who we were, grieve the body that was there. I mean, we grieve that. And if no one can understand that, we go into a depressive state. I don't see how we cannot. It's also hard to get the people around you to understand, especially with MS, it's invisible, right? So we may look great and we got to that party just fine. You don't understand what it took me to get to that party. And everyone expects you to look a certain way, and you're putting up this facade. And when you get home, you take that mask off, and it can be a very lonely, place. And how can you not spiral into depression? The problem is that most doctors are not telling us to go talk to somebody, or, hey, are you struggling with anxiety or depression? Do you have PTSD? I mean, I have severe PTSD, severe. I've learned and I've added tools into my life that I can help control that mildly. But we need to be addressing this more, because 100% someone with MS, how can you not be depressed?
Tell me more about the PTSD and what it is that you control, or how you control it. Because there are a lot of people online, including myself, that have PTSD.
I think the problem with PTSD is we put trigger warnings on everything. So there's a trigger warning on something, and what do you automatically do when you see that trigger warning, right? You're not going to read it. You're not going to look at it. You're not going to acknowledge it. The problem is that the only way to get through your PTSD is to acknowledge your triggers, understand them, and figure out how to embark on them before you get to that point, which is really hard. But it's also our body's defense mechanism to protect us against, those feelings and those thoughts. If we don't talk about what triggers us and what sets us off, how are we going to learn to have the tools we need to control them? You can tell anyone you want, if you're in PTSD mode and you're having an attack from it, breathe. Well, if you never have trained yourself to breathe, how are you going to do that? The only way to do that is to actually practice it. And you have to practice those on a daily. Every single day, you practice your tools. I don't care if you feel great, you feel like crap, or you feel like in the middle. You have to practice those every day. You don't go to a therapist just because you feel bad. You go to a therapist because you need help, but you go when you're feeling good too, because then those tools come to you easier. Football players, basketball players, chefs did not get to where they are by doing it when they felt really good or when a recipe worked. They learned from their mistakes, and that's how they got better. So it's the same thing with your mental health, right? We got to keep doing those things while we're feeling good and while we're getting there at different levels. So whether we're having a bad day or a good day, PTSD can creep in through a sound, through a smell, through a touch, through anything. So we have to figure out what's triggering us to get there. Once we get there, what are we going to do about it? If I tell you to just breathe, Damian, if you've never done breathing exercises, you're going to look at me and you're going to get mad is what you're going to get. Nobody, this is my famous sentence, nobody in the history of calm down has ever calmed down. You don't calm down from somebody saying that. You have to learn how to do it. So it's really about learning what triggers you and getting the tools that you need to get yourself to a safe place.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. If anybody has any questions for AnnMarie, remember, type them in here so I can ask them, all right? Mike is saying, I struggle with this topic and I've driven home after a great day, and then it hit me. Now when I get down, I take an inventory of all I'm blessed with, which lifts me out. Although as MS gets worse, it's becoming worse and harder to deal with. And sorry, I'm missing the bottom of this. And then what or how do you handle this?
Yeah, so first of all, I can't think about what I'm blessed with, because that makes me feel really guilty personally. When I think about why am I feeling this way? I have 4 great kids, I got a job. It makes me feel guilty, like what's wrong with me? Why am I thinking this way if I have all these great things? That gives me guilt. I can't do that. So I think that's why that's the bigger part of what would you miss. If I think about those things that I would miss, the smell of chocolate chip cookies in the house, the feeling that you feel when you look at Christmas lights that are twinkling. My search for a unicorn, which is totally irrational and ridiculous, but jokingly telling my kids that I'm going to go hunt down a unicorn. I'm going to find one. It's going to be in our backyard. Those ridiculous little things put a smile on my face and make me feel like I can get through it. And the other part to it is, y'all, we've been through some really bad days, right? Yeah. You've all 3 of us here, anyone listening has been through some really bad days, but you got through them. You got through that day. 100% you did. And if you got through that day, you can get through today.
By the way, I found the end of a rainbow one time. I chased the end of a rainbow and I found it.
That's
okay,
awesome.
Very interesting. Nothing was there. Nothing was there but grass. Okay. But it was okay. I got there. All right. So question for you. How has the rates of suicide and depression increased during the pandemic? And what have you witnessed during the last year and change?
I've witnessed a storm, a terrible, terrible, perfect storm. COVID hit during what's called suicide season. Springtime is where we have the highest suicide rates, and that's when COVID hit us, right during the spring. We took people who have addictions, drug, alcohol, eating disorders, and captivated them into a house. Now, I'm COVID smart, so no hate there, but we put people in their house. It was uncontrollable. When you have suicidal ideations and addiction, the biggest thing that you thrive on is control, and then we lost control of it. There's been so many deaths that have been, dubbed overdose, alcohol abuse. We don't know if those were suicide. We will have no way to know that. We will not know the true numbers for at least 2 years. That's how they project them. They're projecting the highest suicide rate that we'll ever have seen. It's not just about suicide. We're not talking about it. People lost their jobs. They lost their livelihood. They were confined to homes with abusive spouses. Children were in abusive homes. The county that I live in the month of April, there was not one child abuse case reported. That's not because children stopped being abused. It's because they weren't in school to be reported. That's all mental health right there. I mean, we are doing nothing for our society right now when it comes to mental health. And when you have an illness, I mean, my doctor's appointments were all delayed, right? I'm sure yours were as well. My scans were delayed. That gave me stress. It gave me anxiety. I was freaking out because I couldn't fill my medication because the store didn't have it in. I mean, there were so many layers to that. We will not know those numbers until at least 2 years. And I think we're all going to be astonished. The sad part is, what are we doing until then? What? I don't see us doing much of anything. And that tells me that we'll probably just keep an increase until we actually take action and do something. We can be aware as much as we want, but until we're educated and we take action, we're not doing a thing.
What kind of action would you take?
We need education. We need to express to people what is going on in this world. We need to let them know that there are people that they can talk to. The other part too is we've seen people that are exhibiting depression, anxiety, PTSD, and suicidal ideations for the first time in their lives as grown adults. They have no tools to, get the help that they need. They can't get to a therapist because everything's booked. They can't get to a support group because they're not seeing anybody. What are we doing with those people? We have to create a better space for people to get the help that they need. And quite honestly, it's got to start with the kids. Our children are at huge risk right now, huge risk. Children, 60% of kids with a severe mental illness do not get the help that they need. Only 27 stay in constant treatment. That's a disgusting number, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. Kids as young as 5 years old have suicidal thoughts. By 8, they've thought of plans. By 12, they've attempted. Those are numbers that we need to actually look at. And COVID ruined it for them. They isolated kids. When you're 12 years old, you don't want to be stuck in the house with your parents. You want to be outside playing with your friends. You want to be riding bikes. You want to be going to school as much as you hate school, but we isolated them and put them in their home and didn't let them leave. Again, we needed to. I'm not saying we didn't, but what are we going to do going forward? Schools should sit someone from NAMI or the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention on their board so that they can create spaces for kids to have conversations that are really dark and scary so that they can get them out. That's where we need to start. Businesses, all these employers with these major companies, where's the mental health there? Are you bringing in a support group to talk to your employees about their pay decrease or about their job loss or about their relocation? I mean, those are all huge life changes on top of COVID. So, I mean, there's lots to be done. Whether or not we can actually make the switch, I don't know. I mean, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. We're all aware. And, I said it a minute ago, we all have a common thread with mental health, right? No matter what your illness is, no matter what your life is, that should be 365 days out of the year. We should be talking about mental health. When you go to see your doctor, they should say, how are you mentally? How's your mental health? And it's not just about our physical health. So there's lots of changes I think that could be made.
Right. So we're all stuck in the same thing. We're all like in the same boat here.
And I think talking is really important. I think the more we do have conversations like this that are real honest and frank and, it can be jarring. I mean, I can rattle off statistics that will jar people, but it's time to wake up. Like, when are you going to be mad? When it happens to you or somebody you love? Don't. That's too late. Don't get mad now. Stay mad and fuel that anger.
Damian, you have anything to bring into this?
Yeah, no, I'm just more feeling resonance with what you're saying, AnnMarie. It's what's part of your story is the breast cancer diagnosis, and then it jumps to MS. And so I'm like, well, wait a second. We need the diagnosis process. Like, what's going on here? Talk to me about this. Like, how did that go down?
So which one?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got the cancer diagnosis, but then the bio jumped to multiple sclerosis advocacy. And I'm like, wait, she's an advocate? Wait, when did she get diagnosed? Wait, well, what did she know? Just more questions about how we go from one thing to the next thing.
Honestly, I think my MS had been looming the whole time. I had different health issues, and you go to your doctor and you say you have these aches or tingling or something, and they tell you, oh, your arm's asleep, you're working out too much. I mean, you just had a baby. I mean, I heard literally everything, and I had just had a breakdown the year before my cancer diagnosis. So it took me a year to come out of that. And then I was diagnosed with cancer. While I was going through my cancer process, my whole right side was completely numb. It was extremely tingly. I felt like I constantly had pink eye in my eye. It was glassed over. It felt like even right now I still have it, but I couldn't hear out of my ear. I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't feel my hands. They told me it was from treatment. It was from surgery. It was from this. I had TMJ. I mean, it went on and on. How I really got the diagnosis was about a year and a half. It took 2 years for my diagnosis. About a year and a half after my diagnosis of cancer, my best friend that I grew up with, who actually has MS as well, I was explaining to her how at yoga, I was having this really weird pain that went all the way up my leg and into my shoulders when I was in downward dog. And she said, oh, you're going to see your neurologist next week, right? And I said, yeah. And she goes, you need to tell him that. She didn't say anything more than that. And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't even understand it. I was like, all right. So I told him, and he immediately started doing these other tests on me. He did a thoracic MRI, and a lesion on my spine was found. That's how it came about. Honest to God, that is the true way of diagnosis.
So
I tried different.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So you are already rolling with the cancer and the cancer advocacy, and then the MS happened on top of that.
Yes.
Wow. They say there you only get what you can bear. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I'm about done. I'm about done.
So to slightly change subject here, somebody's asking what's a downward dog. I mean, you brought this up. Not everybody does yoga,
It's when you're down on your hands and your butt's in the air.
Well,
Google that. Aren't we on the internet?
Oh, yeah, we are on the internet. I want to we'll get into that another time. All right. All right. So Robin made a comment that her analogies are so on point. She's so freaking knowledgeable. So I just want to let you know that somebody's saying that about you. Okay?
Thanks, Robin.
All right. And then we have, here's a question from somebody or something else. I don't know what she's saying. I have a new diagnosis and I'm still recovering from losing my eyesight, not one day at a time. What would I miss? Expect my son wouldn't want to bury me. I've had depression all my life and I'm a recovering addict. I've never had this much of a mental health struggle in my entire life. It's hard to take inventory when you're deep in it. I don't know if there's a question here, so I'm trying to read it all.
No, but to her point is really important. First of all, I heard her say that her son would bury her. It's bigger than that. It's not just about your son burying you. It is about what would you miss about your son? Like, wouldn't you miss the way he wakes up in the morning and ruffles his hair? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's things that you would miss about him. It's not just about what he would miss. It is about things that you would miss. And, the thing that What Would You Miss has done, it's created a place for people to be able to say those things to someone that they love and understand that they really are struggling without saying, hey, I'm struggling. I need some help. Because that's really hard to say. It's really, really hard to admit that you are struggling, especially in our society right now. And, it's normal to feel that way. I mean, this diagnosis stinks. It totally stinks. It changes your life. not being able to see out of your eye. I get that. Like, I constantly feel like I have pink eye. I hate it. I hate not being able to wear stilettos every day. I mean, there's so much of it that I hate. I totally feel you. And I think talking about these illnesses is so important, because I don't know what that person's name was. I'm sorry, I forgot. They may feel completely alone, like they're the only ones that feel that, because we all, people put up on social media these great pictures where everyone's smiling and, I got MS, but I'm great, I'm outside. That's bull. Like, it's bull. That's what people are trying to portray. The real diagnosis is disheveled, and not for everybody. I get that. But when you see that part of somebody else, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. This person is struggling the same way I am. That's huge. And in recovery, I'm telling you, that is leaps and bounds. There's nothing like sitting in a recovery space with people, with a CEO, with a soccer mom, with a convenience store worker, with a priest, with whomever, all talking about one common thread. You're an addict. It's just like with MS, right? We're 3 different people sitting right here, different colors, different backgrounds, different ethnicity, different genders. We have one common thread. We have MS, and it sucks.
So I want to give you read out some stuff to you before we continue with our questions. You're getting a lot of accolades here, and I do want you to hear them. All right. Cindy writes, "Amen, sister." All right, Cindy, that's fine. Then we have David. David writes, "Great story. Thank you for sharing. I'm 55. Somebody just jumped in. Had MS since 47. Progressed for the past year in a wheelchair, and hands are next. Been difficult being positive every day. It is difficult to find the positive. Any suggestions? I think about what I miss now and that does help." So keep going.
Okay, David, hold on. Negativity needs a voice. 100%. You do not have to be positive 24/7. There is such thing as toxic positivity. You cannot shove that down people's throats. Negativity needs a voice. If you're mad that day, be mad, but understand that's an emotion, and you can push yourself through it to the next one. We put all these quotes out there to people, right? Like, it's okay to not be okay, but we don't explain that. Why is it okay to not be okay? Why am I awesome? You think I'm awesome? Why am I awesome? What did I do that was so awesome? You have to explain these positive affirmations, explain them so people can understand and how to utilize them in their own life. But I will tell you right now, negativity needs a voice. And if you try to keep shoving it and covering up with positivity, you're going to bury yourself deeper and deeper. And there are days, I practice what would you miss every day, 3 times a day. I wake up in the morning, I think of 3 things I would miss. In the afternoon, I'll take a break, 3 things I would miss. Before I go to bed, 3 things I would miss. A few weeks ago, I couldn't think of one. I couldn't think of one thing I would miss. Not one thing all day long. And that's okay. It was a bad day. The next day, I did think of some. So you have to allow yourself to have negative moments. You have to, and accept them.
Okay, thank you. We got 2 more things. I'm going to get into what would you miss in a minute. And, it's amazing how many women are on this program listening, and yet it's the guys that are all responding right now. What's going on here? You said the guys are the last ones that want to.
No, that makes me so happy. That men need to talk about their mental health, and
that's
part
right.
of the reason why is we portray men as strong. You're macho. You shouldn't feel that way. Don't cry. That's all a bunch of crap. You're a human being. Period.
That's right. All right. So Scott says he was diagnosed in 2005. Just tired of the day-to-day of it. I should be a pro by now, but easy to get overloaded with dealing with what we deal with, and everyone else is too. Pretty selfish, though. Pretty selfish thought. Good info here. So he wanted to give you a thumbs up as well. All right.
Okay.
All right. Then Mary's writing, "I'm thinking of firing my neurologist. She doesn't listen, is condescending, dismissive, and makes me feel less than. Any suggestions on how to successfully do this? I want a new doctor within the same clinic as UTSW. I don't know what that is. So I realize that's a touchy situation. So wherever it is that she's going, she wants another doctor, but evidently they're not letting her switch. So
that's bull. Your doctor works for you. I can't. This makes me so upset when I hear this. Just because they have a white coat on doesn't mean that they are the be all end all. I fired 2 doctors. Absolutely not. You need to have a doctor that will listen to you. And I'll tell you what, when I found that doctor that actually listened to me, I was sobbing because they didn't make me feel like I was ridiculous, like I was complaining, like all of my aches and pains were in my head. They listened to what I had to say. And you have every right to fire that doctor, every single right, and to go to a different doctor in that, what's MS, your brain
TSW.
just stops.
Yeah, she
No,
said
like what's it called
UTSW.
when your doctors are all in one group? What the hell's that? Oh, sorry. What's
Group.
that called?
It's called a group.
It's called a
It's called a
group.
group.
Brain fog.
Group practice, right?
Sure.
All right. So Mary is thankful for that. She goes to the University of Texas Southwest in Dallas. She just wanted me to let you know that as well. And Cindy writes, the women aren't writing because they're too busy listening to all your great information.
Oh,
right?
snap.
Oh,
She got you.
Oh,
So yeah, she put it to me, right? All right. So, we got to go on here, right? So there are 3 handouts and we're going to get to that in a minute, but AnnMarie put together these 3 great handouts. But what I want to say is, what would you miss? And that's a question mark. Is quickly gaining momentum in the community. As more people ask and answer, share their responses, and begin an important dialogue that can open the door to greater understanding and empathy and give us hope to someone who may feel worthless. Can you tell us more about your website, what people could find on there, and about your mission?
Sure. You'll find some resources, different places that you can reach out to if you are in crisis. It's really about just finding a way to talk to people. It truly is. And, telling someone what you would miss about them just on a regular. I think Stuart, you said in the beginning, like reaching out to people who are struggling or who have depression. You don't know what someone's going through. So just reaching out to your strong friend, your smart friend, your, friend who has it all together, your kids. I send my kids, what would you miss? Every day. I let them know things I would miss about them. And they write it back to me. Usually it's, something obnoxious that I'm doing, but you can make it, you can have these really hard conversations in a gentle way. And that's what you'll find on What Would You Miss? You'll find stories of people who have lost somebody to suicide. You will find people who are struggling and them telling you what they would miss about themselves. You'll find great interviews and PSAs of people who have attempted suicide and want to share their story with you. Listen to their stories, listen and know that they are just like everyone that you know. It's not something unique. Depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations, and severe mental illness are not linear. They are not one person. This is very vast. And it's also about, breaking the stigma. We need to stop putting mental health in this category of, the perpetrator in a movie or using words very callously. We have got to stop, because what we're doing is creating places that nobody wants to talk to you. When you use phrases that are making people feel that if you had to hospitalize yourself, that you are out of your mind, how do you expect that person to come to you for help? They won't. We have got to stop stop the stigmatization of mental health. It is imperative. It truly, truly is, because we're only building stronger walls.
So for all of us that are here online that are listening to this, though, isn't it just as important, though, for caregivers to actually know about this, so that way they're the ones that are going to help somebody get through a severe crisis?
100%.
So it's not really just the patients that need to know all this, but learning all about what you have is for everybody, right? And that's what people need to know. It's everybody needs to know what to do to help somebody.
100%. And there's questions you can ask somebody to turn conversations. But it's not just about what would you miss. Clearly, that's just a starting point. But asking somebody, what set you off today? What made you start thinking like this? Is there something going on in your life that changed? Just talking someone through it. The thing of it is here's the reality. All right. I know, because I've been there, and I will argue this until I'm blue in the face. You don't want to die. You want the pain to stop. That's what you want. You want the pain to stop. You don't want death. You want the pain to stop. How do I get the pain to stop? I need to be able to talk about it. If I can't talk about it, I'm going to harbor it. It's going to stay there. It's going to fester. Depression is much like cancer, okay? In cancer, you have all different stages, correct? Stage 4 is your final stage. Anyone who's stage 4 is terminal. As hard as that is to say, you are terminal. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. You are terminal. Depression is just like that. When you get to the point where you are planning your suicide, you are stage 4. You are going to die if you don't do something about it. And if your caregivers and care providers around you don't create a space where you can have a conversation and get you through that. Otherwise, inevitable, it is death.
Okay, so really everybody should have somebody to talk to. Bottom
Yes.
line, whether
Mhm.
professional or not, they got to have somebody to talk to. Okay,
Yep.
Damian, go for it.
Well, one more thing really quick before you start. If anyone is in crisis, please text 741-741. It is a crisis line. I am not a professional. I am crisis trained, but I am not a professional. Please text 741-741. It's an amazing resource and use it. Sorry, Damian, go ahead.
No, not even there. Thank you. There's a lot of vulnerability that comes along with your movement and what you're asking folk to do. Is being vulnerable something that you have always had more ease with, and this was so it's more simple for you to put together, or did you have to sort of fight through not wanting to share things and being vulnerable? Like, that's kind of really what I want to get at. Is this an old hat to you, or?
No, I mean, when I was younger, I hid a lot. I hid all of my depression. People, thought I was a party girl and, AnnMarie will do it. Let's go. Let's find her. She'll go and party. And I was severely depressed. And, my mother was killed when I was 1 year old, and that was the crutch. And I was sexually assaulted at a young age. And it just, I hid it for a very long time. When I had my breakdown about 10 years ago, I didn't really hide it from my kids, but they were young at the time. I didn't really want to tell them much about it. But cancer is what propelled me into it. I had that one person reach out to me and say, my gosh, you've helped me so much. Thank you for sharing your story. I feel like I'm connected to someone. And I realized, oh, wow, like if I let my guard down, I'm helping these other people, which in turn selfishly, and I hate using the word selfishly, helped me. I did go over things with my kids because I shared very intimate pictures. They were all okay with it. And then the MS diagnosis came, which was much harder for them. I couldn't be the mom that was outside playing basketball with them and screwing around and, running all the time. And I was tired, and I was in a really bad relapse for a while. And it was really hard for them to see that. But I still, persevered and kept talking about it. And then as mental health unraveled more and I wanted to tell more of my story, I did talk to my kids about it because their friends all follow me. I was going into their schools, sharing my very deep, story. But my but is I realized that being vulnerable is what I needed. And because I needed it, it resonated so deeply with other people. So I guess I was always kind of vulnerable, just in a different way. Plus, I got a big mouth.
That's because you're a New Yorker. Powers up.
True.
Okay.
Upstate, though, so.
That's right. All right, let's move on to another thing. So can you tell us, please, about NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness? Can you tell us about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention? And can you please tell us about the 3 different handouts that that I posted up here for anybody to click on and open up and keep for themselves going forward?
Sure. NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, is it's a nonprofit organization. There is a national organization. All of your towns should have an affiliate. You can get resources for support groups, how to talk to your family and friends who are diagnosed with an illness. They also are trying to destigmatize the mental health and how it's worded, because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. You'll see a lot of it going on right now. It's a great resource when you have nowhere else to turn, especially. It might be really hard to talk to your doctor, but it's real easy to text a crisis line, and NAMI and the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, there's anonymity there, so you can let your guard down and get the help that you need. American Foundation of Suicide Prevention also has programs and things that you can get involved with that can help stomp out suicide. NAMI has their national walk coming up. These are all resources that schools, educators, families, physicians should all be using so that they can, figure out how to talk to their patients in the proper way. But it's also ways for you to share your stories. There's different tabs if you go to either one of those places that you can read stories about people who have gone through different things. And, it's a place to resonate and to relate to other people.
Great. Thank you for that. Can you tell us about the handouts?
So the 3 handouts that are there, one is just some phrases that, we use all the time. It's okay to not be okay. And why that phrase is important, validating someone's emotions, having them understand that you understand that they are having a hard time right now, and that's okay. You can just be with that hard time right now. Really explaining those phrases, because we can't just say them so blasé and not really understand what's in back of there. There's a crisis number resource that I have numbers from Uruguay to Bosnia to Ireland, which is important. If your website, if you are a blogger or an advocate, you might have people messaging you from all different parts of the world. And the last one is just some different crises. Self-harm. Self-harm is pretty important to have a conversation about. Self-harm is not a means to die by suicide. Self-harm is a way that you're trying to release the inner pain that you're having. Understanding why people self-harm and understanding that they can't just stop. If they could just stop and it was that easy, they would. They need healthy alternatives to get them through that. And that will tell you some in there. There's in that one crisis sheet, there's about 50 different phrases that you can use to someone besides what would you miss that can help turn the conversation around. Studies show that if you can get somebody talking for about 10 minutes who's having suicidal ideations about something other than death, you could probably get them through that day. So talking about music and movies and what color you like better, Diet Coke or Pepsi, different things like that can really turn a conversation around. And self-care. We talk about self-care and people feel like it's selfish. I think we should change the phrase from self-care to self-resilience, because what we're doing when we self-care is building resilience for ourselves going forward.
Good. Can you tell us more about the self-care?
Yeah, I think self-care is something that we all struggle with, right? It's really hard to say to yourself, I need a break today. I got to regroup, or I didn't drink enough water. I mean, it can be as simple as that. Or I think I'm just going to eat Twizzlers all day long, and that's okay. Self-care is really, really important. I'm not 100% great at it, but it's something that I try to do every day. And that could just be practicing 10 minutes of breathing in the morning. That's self-care. Finding something that you can do for you. It is not selfish. I don't want to hear that. I hate the word selfish. I think it's one of those words that we just throw out there when we think people are, I went and got a manicure today. Oh, she's so selfish. She should have been, cooking dinner for her kids. Forget that. I want to get a manicure today. Self-care is really important to take care of you, especially with an illness like MS. You've got to listen to your body and take care of it. It's the only body you have.
Hey, thank you for that. Hey, for everybody watching it, all right, these handouts, it's like when you go to a program, all right? Instead of there's somebody being at a table and handing you information, you could click on this, you could save it to your own whatever, to your own laptops, desktops, whatever it is. All right. Or, if you can't figure out how to do this and the program ends, you could always ask us to send this to you. All right. So there's another question. Do you think being physical interacts with, or physicality, I don't know the exact word, interacts with mental health?
100%. Your body is always listening to your mind. Your mind is always listening to your body. They work together 100%. And if your body is reacting to a bad day, your mind is going to play up on that. And if your mind's having a hard day, you will physically feel it. Anybody that says that depression, anxiety is not physical has never really had a depressive or an anxiety-filled moment, because it is 100% physical. You can feel it, and vice versa. And that is why they have to be treated interchangeably.
What about food? Do different foods cause any of this?
Yeah, right. If I eat my Twizzlers all day long, my body is going to tell me about that later. Eating is hard for me. I grew up in a family where you finished everything on your plate, and you ate a full dinner at 5 o'clock, and then grandma's pulling out at leftovers by 7. And we have to recondition ourselves in our eating habits. We really do as a society. I mean, you go out to dinner and your plate's like enormous, right? And you want to eat all that because it tastes so good. But I also think that you shouldn't stop yourself from getting the foods that you love, even if they're really bad for you. I was a personal trainer, and I really believe that I need those Twizzlers. I got to have my Twizzlers. If I don't, there's going to be a problem. But I don't need to eat the whole bag. You have to allow yourself the things that make you smile and make you feel good. And if macaroni and cheese for breakfast does that, have a small bowl of it. There's nothing wrong with that. We've created a world of eating disorders and we don't even realize it. You eat a cookie, right? And how many times have you ate that cookie and said, oh my God, I'm being so bad because I'm eating this cookie? That's bull. You're eating, it's only bad if you rip the cookie off from the store. That's bad. You have to eat that cookie because you want to eat that cookie because it feels really good to eat that cookie. Just don't eat 20
Yeah,
of them.
until you get on the scale the next day, right?
Yeah, but and weight is so subjective. I mean, when I was in my worst depressive state, I weighed 87 pounds. Everybody told me how great I looked. You look so great. Oh my God, you look fantastic. Look at you. You look so great. What are you doing? You could see my collarbones, my ribs were sticking out, but I look so great. And then when I was at my biggest, when I was on steroids and all those wonderful medications that we take, everyone was like, oh my God, is she going to be okay? That's baloney. Like, it's just not right. Your weight is not precedent of your health. Moving your body as an MS patient, I try to move every single day. That may just be a walk around the block or a walk to the mailbox because that's all I physically can handle that day, but I'm going to move. I'm going to move. And then at the end of it, I'm going to be like, I am super proud of myself for moving like this. It doesn't have to be, a 10-mile run. That's not what it's about. But moving your body is really important to the eating because they both work together.
Well, thank you. Before I turn this over to Damian again, I'm going to read another question from online. Cindy's asking, do you ever find yourself having to alert people, professionals, that would potentially make an on-site visit to determine if someone who is potentially suicidal, and then for their own protection, they could possibly have to go into treatment against their will? I ask because this, in my view, would be very difficult to have to do, meaning basically rat them out and force them into treatment.
So that's loaded, but I will answer it. Honestly,
Good.
I have, yes,
I don't even remember what I read.
I have done it before. A well check is actually really important to check to make sure the person is okay and safe and going to be all right. When you do a well check, you are not committed to treatment right away. That is false. That's not true. You are not, unless you are at adamant risk at that moment. There are different levels to that type of risk. If someone has previous suicide attempts, if they have a clear suicide plan, which means they have a date, they have means, they have a reason, and they have an objective. That is a high risk individual and they need help immediately. The best thing I ever did for myself was hospitalize myself. If I didn't, I would not be sitting in front of you right now. I would not be here. The help is there because we need it. Are the facilities always great? Nope, because that's our society. The bigger problem isn't doing the well check, it's how we do a well check, okay? When you do a well check, the police come. Why? It's
Right.
not a criminal act to feel that way. What should happen is EMS should show up at your door with a therapist, a social worker in the car that can pull your medical records so they can see what is going on in your life and they can assess what you are going through. A police officer is not mental health trained. That is a huge problem in our world right now because they're going into these situations. They don't understand someone with schizophrenia who is bipolar. They don't understand depressive state, and they're treating it like a criminal. And it's not a criminal act to feel this way. It is not. We need to have the right professional do the well check. But to save someone's life, I'll 100% do a well check. I have no problem with it because I've been exactly there.
Okay, Damian, your turn.
Yeah, no, this is me sort of looking at your questions, and I'm like, they're fantastic questions, and I'm like, I'm going to turn some of them on you. but really, it's what do you value about yourself? You're doing all this work, and you're just going. No, what do you really value?
Singing at the top of my lungs to the most ridiculous song that you will ever hear. I value that about myself because it makes me feel really good and ridiculous. And for that blip of a 5-minute, 3-minute, whatever it is, I don't have MS. I didn't have cancer. I don't have a mental health issue. I am just singing that song and it feels so, so good. And I also value hugs incredibly. I'm a hugger. I love hugging people. I will hug a random stranger. I love giving hugs. And COVID really affected me that way, that people would, stand back. Even now, you go to hug someone and they're like, oh, are you vaccinated? I just want to hug somebody. I don't want to do that. But that's a value to me. And I'm a listener. I can talk your ear off right now, but if you were in crisis or you needed somebody, I could just listen. And sometimes we all need to shut up and just listen to what the person has to say. And you don't have to try to fix anybody. Nobody needs fixing. They just need someone to listen. And I feel like that is a huge value of mine. I'm also loyal to a fault. If you are my friend, I will move heaven and earth for you. I will pick you up wherever you are. I am very loyal. I also don't lie. My father says that that's a curse too, so maybe that's not,
I even asked some of your questions to you because they're really great. And if you guys make sure you download the handouts because they're really comprehensive and have you really thinking about yourself in this space and really sort of have you square off and like, I would usually just answer this question with something pat or something funny, but no, what do I really value? No, what do I really want to achieve? And it's moments like this that really help give people the space for that. And you're helping to give that space.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to be funny too. Like we have to use humor. I have a really dark sense of humor, and I have a great group of friends who are my support system, and I would be lost without it because I can say really dark, funny stuff to them, and they don't look at me like there's something wrong. But humor is really important to me personally.
Absolutely.
If I can't laugh at this, I'm screwed.
Well, that's good. Laughing is a great part of everybody's day, right? We always say that you have to have laughter to be better. All right. So we often hear people say that if a person's talking about suicide, it's not going to happen. Is that a fallacy or what?
No. If you're talking, anybody that's talking about suicide should be taken seriously. Every single person. Even and this is part of our societal ways, right? How many times have you been at work somewhere and someone will say, this project is I just want to kill myself. That is a problem. That sentence is a problem. We need to stop making those sentences so blasé, because that person sitting next to you may be contemplating suicide the whole time. That's a different scenario. And when you hear it enough like that, it does affect you in a bad way. Anyone who's talking about suicide should be taken seriously. I don't believe in attention seekers. I think every single one of us needs attention. We all crave attention. We're human beings. We're mammals. A horse, a dog, they crave attention too. We need attention. And there is such thing as negative attention, sure. But if that person is seeking negative attention, there's probably an underlying issue there that needs real addressing. So I believe in taking all of those things very, very seriously.
Okay, thank you. What do you tell, how do you get a family who sees someone in their lives struggling? All right. How do you get them to, the family member knows that somebody is struggling bad, but they cannot get their person to go see somebody. All right. They XYZ, I'm talking to XYZ, and I know that XYZ is really struggling really bad. I make suggestion, you need to open up. You need to be able to go see a professional, get involved with a support group or something. And that person, XYZ, does not want to do anything but feel bad. What do you do to motivate that person to get help?
Well, first of all, they're probably not ready to get the help that they need because they're doing that. Second of all, offer to go with them. I'll go with you. Can we go together? Also, maybe just talking to them, finding out what's going on. You be that person. Maybe if they open up and they start talking about it, they will then realize that they do need help. It's really hard to admit that you need help when we're all supposed to be these strong individuals who are, can withstand it. We have MS. We can handle anything. It's really hard to then say, you know what? I really think I need some help. But creating a space where they can actually talk to you and open up to you is number one. That has to be the first thing. And they may not be ready to get the help that they need. I mean, I was years before I was ready to get the help that I needed. But I also didn't have anybody that said, hey, you want to talk? Is there something going on? What's going on in your life? Did something change? Are you feeling okay? How's your mental health these days? You want to go get a cup of coffee? You want to listen to music? Do you want to just watch a movie together? We can watch some cheesy movie together. Let's just hang out for a little bit. There's ways to make that person be seen without ever letting them realize that you're thinking that there's something wrong with them.
The most important thing that you're saying there is you're mentioning the presence. And I think that's what it gives us all our strength. Like Stuart's presence out here gives us MS Views and News. My presence gives the viewers on my channel their vlog and such. Your presence gives What Would You Miss and all the other organizations that you work with. The expertise that you have gotten through going through things that it doesn't matter if you get through them expertly. Most of them sort of chew people up. So that's sort of what I see is part of what is making a movement like yours resonate with so many people. It's the presence.
I'm glad you said that, because it's actually really, really important. You know, when you're in that suicidal state, when you're that person that doesn't want to get any help, you believe your presence is not important. You believe that your presence would be better not there. And when you validate someone's presence and realize that you really want them around and that you would miss so much about them, it does something. It changes it. It really does. I mean, I've had my friends send me texts after I started, what would you miss? Just randomly, you know, I would miss you at Bunko if you weren't there. She didn't know I was struggling that day. Maybe I wasn't, but getting that text is like, wow, if I'm not around, someone's going to miss me.
Hey, for everybody that's looking to find out about what would you miss and you want to see the website, it's pretty simple. Type whatwouldyoummiss.com and you'll get right to AnnMarie's page and you can see what all this is about. All right. Very simple. Also, I'm hearing from people that they cannot open the handouts. I just tried it and it works. I just tried it from 2 different points of view here and it works for me. So I don't know what you're clicking from, but I will send this to everybody that sends me an email that says that they need me to send it to them by email. But you have to send me an email first because I'm not going to know how to send it to you, okay? I won't know who wants this, and I don't want to just send it to everybody. So you have my email address. You get a ton of emails from me. So instead of saying, stop sending me emails, do something for yourself and send me an email that says to send you that email, okay? All right. Next, going back to the MS community for a moment, what would you tell people that are they battling depression from multiple sclerosis? Or are they battling depression from something else going on in their life? How do they do they need to justify why they are depressed or just deal with the fact that they are depressed?
I think you need to first address why, you know, what's going on. Why are you there? How'd you get there? And, you know, I mean, depression is so ambiguous. It could have started from the diagnosis or it could have stemmed from something before. But until you start addressing the depression and why you're there right now, you won't get to the reason why it started. And depression ebbs and flows, right? Some days are really good, some days aren't. And the problem, I think, that's bigger than that. I think when you're diagnosed, like we were all diagnosed, right? You got MS, peace out. We'll give you a call later on, let you know what the next step is. What should happen is you should say, here's a support line. Here's the MS community. Reach out to this is going to be your mentor. They're going to talk you through this. So you're not so alone. I mean, I remember walking out of that neurologist's office. I actually hit the guardrail because my mind was somewhere else because I felt so all alone. And my best friend growing up had MS, but nobody connect you immediately with someone who has been there. And I think that camaraderie would change the face of depression in the MS community or in any illness. I mean, cancer's the same way. When you're diagnosed with cancer, here's a hotline. You're going to call this number. They're going to help you out. They're going to give you some tips. They're going to talk you through it. Fantastic. Now I don't feel alone. Now I can talk about how I'm feeling with someone who's been there, and I don't have to make my family, feel stressed out because of the things I'm thinking. I can talk to someone who's been there.
Thank you. My video producer, Bill, a lot of you know Bill. Bill's the guy out there, right? He wanted me to remind everybody that in order for you to open up these handouts, they are PDFs. You need Adobe Acrobat to be able to do that. So if you do not have Adobe Acrobat, you will not be able to open these and first download Adobe Acrobat, okay? Or send me an email and you'll get it from me by email by tomorrow, okay? Not tonight. All right, what's next? Damian, take over for a little bit.
That's my question to AnnMarie. What's next? I mean, in a lot of ways, you've transmuted the bad things into something good. And now we have all these flowers. Great. Do you just go around the world giving flowers and helping people see their own flowers? Are you making other organizations to tackle other issues? Like, I'm curious because you clearly do a lot. So is there anything else in the pot?
And that is part of my brain process. If I stay busy, I don't fall so quickly into a depressive state. So being busy is one of my tools. Now that COVID is, we're coming to some sort of agreement with it. Once schools are full again, I would like to go back into the schools and start talking again to the kids, because I really believe that they are the only way we're going to get out of this. I know I'm an old lady and no one really listens to half of what I say, but these kids are going to make an impression and make a difference. And we have to start with them. And I would, once we're open, I want to go back to the schools and start talking again to kids.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's that presence in the space. Oh, sorry, Stuart, go ahead.
No, that's all right, Damian. You're talking, but I just want to let everybody know that AnnMarie is part of an organization also called Lifebulb, who, when I found AnnMarie and all that she's doing, is because I was actually knew about Lifebulb, and I was looking on their site to see about they being guest hours in August. All right. And then I was reading about AnnMarie and all the stuff that she's doing. And I said, wow, this has to come way first. All right. This is a really hot topic and I got to get her squeezed in. So I had to move around a lot of what I do with, with other guests that would be on even this month, in this program. And so we wanted to make sure we got AnnMarie on here. Sorry if I keep chopping up your name, but is it
That's
AnnMarie?
right. I won't answer to Ann. No, it's AnnMarie. I will not answer to Ann.
Okay, then I won't call you Ann anymore.
Or it's Pretty Princess, whichever you prefer.
Yes.
Or Pretty Princess, you choose.
Oh, okay. I'll stick with the AnnMarie for now, all right? Okay. All right, great. All right, so Damian, did you have anything else to add to this? Because if not, we're going to wrap things up. We are an hour into this, as we had promised that we would be doing our event tonight. And AnnMarie, would you, even somebody's asking a question now. Now I got to stop. But AnnMarie, I'm going to ask you after I ask these next two questions, if you can tell us something from your own point of view. All right. So think about that for a minute. Let me go back and answer these things. All right. Alessandra's asking, does she have a website? And that is what I mentioned a short while ago, that all you have to do is type in whatwouldyoummiss.com. Whatwouldyoummiss.com. All right.
And I'm on Facebook and Instagram too.
Okay, great. And she's on Facebook and Instagram, in case you didn't hear that. All right. Next, Mary is writing, do any of you three ever go through advocate burnout? If so, how do you deal with that? I could answer that. And what do you do to refuel the energy tank and keep things going? Do you take breaks to decompress? Who wants to go first? Go ahead, Damian. Go first.
Oh, that was me ushering y'all to go first.
No. I saw your hands going up, so you're first.
Well, no, it's certainly a lot to deal with, especially when you are successful. I think there's always, I know what my limits are, and I know when I'm pushing past those limits. And then if I'm pushing too much, then I'm like, you know what? Let me just stop for a little bit, because it's not even that I'm here. It's that I'm here and pushing. So if I was just here, I'd be fine. But I'm here and pushing. So I don't want to push anymore. I'm gonna watch reruns of Seinfeld and sit here and pet my dog and not feel guilty about it because I was just pushing for days and weeks. That's how I deal with it.
AnnMarie, your turn. I'm gonna go last on this one.
So yeah, I used to get burnout. About 2 years into my cancer diagnosis, a girl that I had become friends with right when I was diagnosed, she was stage 4 and she was 34 years old and she was in her last weeks of life. And she said to me, "Be my voice." And I took that to heart. So every time I get a burnout, I think of Sephora saying to me, "Be my voice." There's many advocates out there, whether it's MS, cancer, lupus, mental health, that cannot use their voice for a variety of reasons. So whenever I get that burnout feeling, I remember that there's people who can't use their voice. Maybe they don't have a big enough mouth like I do. And I remember that it's really, really important for me to keep using my voice. So that's what keeps me going.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you, Damian, for your answer. And I'm just going to say that I don't get burnout. All right. Simply said, I mean, Damian knows me for a long time. All right. Simply said, I thrive on what we're able to provide for the MS community. And the more events that we can possibly do in many different avenues and different directions means that we're able to provide that much more and help that many other people. So where Susan may be on this program and AnnMarie might be on this program and Damian might be on this program, maybe the other two programs weren't good for Damian or AnnMarie, but this other program is. And so I just thrive to be able to provide all this information, and that's what keeps me going and going and going. Plus, I like seeing my face on here all the time.
Real talk though, Stuart is really charged up about providing these programs for the audience, for the MS community. That is a real REAL 100%. This guy is out here, and when we could actually see people, I met him out here and at events and going between people and between booths. So if y'all are here in this room, man, you might be it's isolating. MS is an isolating disease. You may be isolated because of that, but you are not alone. If this guy is around, you are not alone.
Thanks, Damian. So Mike Russell wants everybody. Mike Russell. Sorry, I said your last name, dude. Sorry about that, but you're a good guy. All right. He's saying that thank you for another great program. Thanks, Mike, for always being with our programs. And I still am going to ask AnnMarie, though, to share with us from her own perspective, without me asking you any questions, what do you want people to know best about what we've been talking about tonight?
I want them to know that it's okay to talk about what they're feeling, that those dark, deep thoughts, so many other people are having them, and they truly are not abnormal, that it's okay to talk about them. Find a safe person to have a conversation with. Tell them things that you would miss about yourself, about them. Reach out to anybody that you know. It does not have to be somebody that you think is struggling. People are struggling in ways that you don't even realize. And like I always say to my kids, be nice. Be nice.
That's true. Thank you very much, AnnMarie. Thank you for being a guest tonight. I'd love to see you again at another program. And that was very, very well said, what you just did and everything that you spoke about tonight. More and more people need to hear this. So I definitely want to revisit this topic with Damian, with myself, with you. Maybe we could do this again in a few months, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it is something that we need to keep hitting on. Like you said, not enough people know about it, know what to do with it, and we really need to help get the word out there. So let's work on something. Let's work on something that we can put together that can, bring in maybe thousands of people to hear.
Awesome.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. All right, everybody, thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting what MS Views and News is doing. Damian, thanks always for you being part of our programs. And for everybody, I can just say, and Damian's probably saying it as well, namaste.
Hey,
have a great night.
I'm hang out with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. AnnMarie, we'll speak soon, okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.